Hello everyone, I am Dave, and this here is Cupid. He's my 6, nearly 7-year-old dressage horse. I've had him for about 2 years now, and a little bit over 2 years. And I've got quite a few goals with him, but for now I just need to get him back into consistent work, get him to build up some muscle, and give him some more experience just out and about in general. In the future, I'll definitely be doing some other things on him as well, just for his brain and to give him, a broader experience. But for now, we're just doing a lot of flat work, which he thoroughly enjoys. He hates being out of the arena. But without further ado, let's get on with it. I usually start off with a fair bit of walking, mostly to get their joints all warmed up, but especially with younger horses like Cupid here, I really like to make sure that I can move his shoulders around, because he is a big, long, slinky boy. So I just use this time to really make sure that I can bend him both ways around my leg, move his shoulders around, and make sure that he is being nice and responsive with his hind legs. He often likes to look sort of over the back end of the arena there. He always finds it particularly spooky. I probably should have been a little bit firmer with him there to really keep his focus. I can't really afford to have him doing that in an actual dressage test, but usually I can let him have a good look at it the first time and then he's over it. So you can see here now he's really starting to place his outside front leg sort of more under his nose rather than further out to the left. Same with his outside hind leg, he's sort of stepping it underneath his body a little. And here I'm just making sure that he's nice and responsive and will move back the other direction after I've had him going over to the right there for a little bit. So you can see this time he's still looking over the arena edge a little, but he's not as bad as before. And I like to also keep him, a little bit longer and lower here, so his pole about level with his withers. I will pick him up later on and collect him. I also like to do a little bit of leg yielding, make sure he is really happy to step under himself at the walk, and there, yes, see, I corrected him and rewarded him with that little neck scratch, because he was leading a bit too hard with his shoulders, and I just wanted his hind legs to catch up. And another little reward there. And I'm about to ask him to trot on there, so I make sure that he's listening. I'd like him a little bit more off my leg, but for the first trot transition, I'm not too fussed about that. Now, my lower leg is a little more active than I would like, but most of this is correcting his straightness rather than his forwardness, and you'll see here he appears a little bit unsound occasionally, like right there. And I think he does it again just up here. But that's not unsoundness, he would rather canter than actually step through a little bit more. You can see he's stepping a bit short with his hind legs. Oop, a little bit of a spook there. There's some stuff just off screen on the left that he always likes to have a good look at. So yeah, there again. He'd just rather go forward into the canter than actually take bigger steps in the trot. So when that happens, I just back off a little bit, get him to rebalance, and we try again. And I'll start putting in a little bit of lateral work, so a bit of shoulder 4, and, well, maybe not quite yet, but a little bit of shoulder 4, yeah, there again, he's trying to canter. And even some shoulder in, and asking him then to change the flexion into renvers a little bit, to help really get his hind legs underneath himself. So here, that's shoulders in but into the wall, mostly because I really want that outside hind leg to not drag behind. And now that he's going a little bit more forward, he's looking a lot better. Still occasionally trying to canter on. I also like to move his shoulders around a lot because when he's a little bit nervous or excited, he likes to sort of suck back and try and bring his nose to his chest, so I'm constantly trying to just move his jaw around to encourage him to stretch forward into the contact. And you can see, yeah, there, he just sort of tries to curl his nose down a little bit. That's just his breeding a little some shoulder in here and asking him, yep, just to change that flexion a touch, and then changing it back to the inside, really getting his hind legs underneath him. So a challenge for this horse is always going to be collection, because he's so long and stretchy. Asking him to compress his body will be, and get all of his weight back over his hocks will be difficult for him going forward. The little... I always love that. He's quite reactive to the whip. Never really touch him that hard, just a little tap on the shoulder to remind him to move it across. But he always has quite an over-exaggerated reaction there. I think it's quite funny, and I would prefer him to be like that than to ignore it completely. There we go, some leg yielding here. He could have been a little bit straighter through the body, but mostly, yeah, I'm just trying to get his left shoulder specifically moving across there from the outside, because on that right rein, he tends to overbend towards the inside. He likes to swing his whole neck over to the right, and then he can just push his left shoulder out towards the outside of the circle and drift across. So there I'm trying to keep his right hind leg underneath him, that's why my leg was so far back there. As he gets older and more responsive and stronger, he'll get better at it. A little bit of travers here to really get that outside hind underneath him. You can see him swinging around there a little bit. But the 10 meter circle there was just to balance him, get that bend, and there's some more travers. Yeah, good. So because he's not particularly strong and good at these movements yet, I only ask for 3 or 4 strides at the moment. He's better at shoulder in, so teaching them the shoulder in is easier and done earlier because it's more of an exaggerated inward bend where you keep exaggerating it until they bring these shoulders across. Rather than with travers, where they need to keep their neck and shoulders more or less straight and bend their rib cage to bring their hindquarters in towards the center of the arena. So the travers and renvers, when I ask him to do those, it'll only be a couple of steps at a time until I can feel him either doing it correctly for a couple of strides or he starts losing his strength, where I'll do a 10 meter circle to rebalance him. Snack, some bribery, and we're going to go have a canter now. So this horse loves cantering, as I mentioned before. If he finds something too hard in trot, he will try and pop into the canter. But what I ought to do is canter him before I trot him, like do all the canter work first. However, at the moment, because he's such a strong horse, I do need to make sure that I can move his shoulders so that I can, have him go where I want properly in the canter. And you can see now he's collected a bit more, brought his head up. Things happen so quickly in the canter with him. You can say 3, 4, 5, 6 canter strides on the short side there. So things happen very, very quickly in the canter here, so I'm asking him for a little bit of leg yielding there to get his inside hind leg underneath him, and then up here, I think I asked for another leg yield on this one. Yes, and his shoulders went across and then his hind legs didn't, so I asked him to straighten up before I asked again. And then this time, I believe I asked him for some shoulder in at the canter there, because I really want, yes, there, good, and that's enough. Just those 3 strides there. to remind him to keep that inside hind leg underneath himself. Yeah, another shoulder in there. He found it a bit too difficult towards the end, hence why he popped in the trot, but I'm not going to... my boot. That chap keeps coming undone, I need to get it repaired. But in that canter there, he found it a little bit difficult, so he came back to the trot. I'm not upset about that, because it was just too much for him. I wasn't going to tell him he's done a bad job, just because it's too difficult. So there I'm asking him to move his hind legs around a little bit. He's much better on the left rein in the canter. Although that circle, and I believe the next two, he comes down and sees the long side and wants to just, accelerate into medium canter down the long side. Obviously I don't want to emphasize that as a habit, so I circle him off each time that he tries to go on his own, so that he learns to wait for me. I always let him have an extended canter when I ride, because it's fun, honestly. I think that's right here, in fact. Nope, not yet. But, I enjoy it, he enjoys it, and he will need to be able to do it, in the future. And it's a good way for him to let off some steam, and here he goes. He just loves to open up. We didn't quite collect enough. We get maybe a stride there of counter canter, and then back into the trot. So thanks everyone for sticking around to watch and listen to me talk about my ride. If you'd like to see some more stuff like this in the future, I do plan on doing a few more of these videos, as well as covering a lot of the certificate stuff that Pony Club Australia teaches as part of their curriculum. So yeah, you've got that to look forward to, as well as more of just me riding this horse. Thanks for watching.
Odie, come here! Odie! Odie!